More and more people are being debanked.
And what's interesting is that they got blacklisted from all the banks.
And still, no funds, no releasing.
And this could reach 1 million people by 2048 if current trends continue. We're going to get into everything that's going on here and how the mainstream media is saying that this is not common at all, which is really interesting. We are no longer in a position to continue our banking relationship with you. Ontario man dumped as a bank client after 30 years. And let's just take a listen to a little about what he says in his story here.
He's trying to move money in his investments when he says he encountered difficulties getting in-person service, so he complained.
I made complaints to a couple branch managers as well as a regional community manager. And within 7 days of those complaints, I was told that all of my accounts are being closed.
Nisab received a letter from RBC.
And that's really interesting, isn't it? So he complained, 7 days later, they close all his accounts and they don't have to give him a reason. So it says here, we are no longer in a position to continue our banking relationship with you. And that was RBC. But quite frankly, this is happening a lot. And this could be another reason why a lot of people are going to be debanked coming up because of the amount of fraud in the housing market. So take a listen to this.
Where these guys didn't qualify to buy the home that they wanted. So what ended up happening is that they met an individual that knew another individual that said, I can get anything approved. And when people say that, they typically mean I can pad your income,
mortgage fraud,
create fake jobs for you to get you approved for the home that you want. And what's interesting is that they got blacklisted from all the banks after they got approved from the bank that they applied for. Now you're probably wondering, well, Ken, if they got approved at the bank that they applied for, then how did they get blacklisted? What many of you guys don't know is that once you put down under 20%, the banks get insurance. They work with 3 major insurance companies. So it's either Canada Guarantee, CMHC, or Sagan. And what these guys do is they insure the bank's mortgage. So they do an extra level of due diligence. And these guys...
So there's some key things there. They got debanked for actually committing mortgage fraud. But I think even more key is what he said about due diligence. This got past the bank, no problem. It was until it hit the CMHC when they had to do the extra due diligence, or the CMHC was, for the mortgage insurance, that then they found out that it was complete fraud. And what's really interesting about this is they got blacklisted from all the major banks in Canada, not just one. So that's really interesting. And they actually got the approval before that. And people are also having their funds frozen. We went through this. People are having checks frozen, like this lady. Take a listen to this.
Scotiabank is holding my husband's $10,000 check hostage. My husband deposited a check from a company he worked for. Scotiabank put a hold on it, called it fraud, and are not releasing the funds back to us, and it has been over 30 days.
So what's really interesting as well is there was a Globe and Mail article that was about this, and it was really just pointing to money laundering as the reason, and also fraud is being pointed to as the reason as well. And this will get really key in a second here, but I just want to show you this as well. So basically 2019, 19 complaints of debanking. That does not mean that 19 people got debanked. That's just the complaints. It could have been over 100, but by 2023 that's 113, and that's plus 500%. So the trend is clearly picking up. But what is really interesting is when you actually apply that trend, that means by 2048 over 1 million Canadians will be complaining about being debanked if the trends continue. I mean, that just shows the dystopian future that is ahead for Canadians. This is why I'm always saying that you should get a bank in a different country. You should definitely diversify your banking. The easiest way to do that for a Canadian is to just go across the border with their elbows up. Sorry, I had to say that. And open a bank account with one of the major US banks. Despite what you might hear about the relationship between Canada and the United States, it's very easy for a Canadian to go ahead and open up a bank account in the United States. But 1 million people could be complaining about debanked by 2048. I mean, just imagine. And you can really see it's happening because obviously we've also had the banking system that was weaponized during the Freedom Convoy. Take a listen to this.
If your truck is being used in these protests, your corporate accounts will be frozen.
So the banking system has been weaponized by the government once. What's stopping them doing it again? And once you get to a central bank digital currency, it becomes way easier. Suddenly they don't have to invoke the Emergencies Act.
The federal government has invoked the Emergencies Act.
And they can just use the Bank of Canada as a pawn. And it will be very interesting to see what happens there. And I also want to show you this, because this is happening in the UK. NatWest imposes new cash limits in latest debanking route. I mean, this was in 2023. It's now actually most of the banks that have put these cash limits on. And it says it's to protect our customers from the risk of fraud. Exactly like the lady said, the reason why her $10,000 check was being frozen was because of fraud.
Scotiabank put a hold on it, called it fraud, and are not releasing the funds back to us.
I mean, it's pretty interesting that you're seeing the same reason in a different country. It's almost like we live in this simulation, but it's very interesting. You go to Reddit and there is countless stories of people being debanked. Has anyone heard banks ending your account with them and won't disclose a reason? Is this common? The account is as boring as they come, only used to receive and pay bills. So again, it's a lot of questions of why this is happening, and the banks don't even have to provide a reason. And that should definitely be something that is forced on the banks. At least they should have to provide a reason why they're closing that account. And you're seeing more and more of those complaints. So are you heading into more of a dystopian future? We're hearing more and more stories about people getting debanked.
Which they froze my whole profile. Not one account, they froze every account, they froze every line of credit, everything that I have.
One of the scariest parts about living in Canada is they can shut down your bank account whenever they want. Last year, I had one account with 6 figures in it, and they shut down the account on suspicion. And they kept that account shut for 6 months. Now, this was just one of my business accounts, so I didn't really care too much. However, it still had 6 figures in it that I wanted back. And they opened it up after 6 months, and they said, by the way, our mistake, nothing's wrong, you can proceed. But imagine that was my only account. I'd have no income, no bank account, and no savings for 6 months.
And you know, as you can see here, a CEO of Calgary-based Phantom Compliance says his account was closed by Scotiabank. So again, it doesn't seem to matter what bank you're with in Canada. They're going to say it's either fraud or money laundering, even if you weren't engaged in any of those things or being subject to fraud, for example. But that's what the reason is going to be. And that's if you get a reason, because guess what? They don't have to provide one. But what is really interesting is that these banks are just holding on to that money, and people are calling, saying, what's going on? And they're just not getting answered. Take a listen to this.
The money back to the original company so they can direct deposit us the funds either. For the past 34 days, he's been calling daily. He's not given any answers. People are beating around the bush. And now today, Scotiabank has told him that they are closing his bank account, and still no funds, no releasing.
Doesn't that sound exactly like this? Doesn't it sound exactly like this? The guy complains and then they say, you know what, we're just going to close all your accounts. It's easier than dealing with you. I mean, this is just the reality in the Canadian oligarchy and the banking system in Canada. The reality is that we know this trend is accelerating, and you're going to see it happen more and more, and especially with things relating to crypto. Obviously, crypto is used for crime a lot, and that basically means that banks just throw up red flags if you're doing anything when it comes to crypto. So that's another thing that people should really look into, and people should really double check with AI that what they're doing with crypto is actually not against the bank's terms, because a lot of them have updated terms, and a lot of providers, especially online providers, don't support crypto. So how many people do you think will be complaining that they are being debanked in 2045? Do you think it's going to be over 1 million, or do you think it's going to be less? Let me know in the comments below, and check out this video where I'm going through many people who had their bank accounts frozen and closed. It's a very interesting dive into that. ExpressVPN is the fastest and the best VPN, and you're also helping support the channel. I've been using ExpressVPN for over 5 years now. Thank you so much, and I will see you in the next one. Take care.